Hello, my name is Naseem, and in last couple of videos we talked about the very basic fundamentals of statistics like mean and median, and we calculated mean and median over a Excel spreadsheet on a fake data set to understand how to calculate mean and median. And when we find out that the value of mean and median of two different fake data set is exactly same, we try to plot a graph to understand behavior of the data set. But there is a problem with calculating all of these things in Excel sheet and creating these graph in Excel sheet, because there is a limitation. We will not have this flexibility to calculate, to implement all of the logics in Excel itself, because when we are working on a real program or real project, we have to implement these logics in a specific language, means the language that project is supporting, right? And this language may be Java, maybe C++, C sharp, or Python itself, right? So to implement all of these logics, to create graphs, to analyze the data, we must have a hands-on experience on a particular language. So in our further videos, we will try to implement all of the logics in Python. We will not use Excel anymore. So in upcoming videos, we will try to understand the a very basic fundamental of Python. We will try to get an hands-on experience on widely used libraries in machine learning and data science in Python. We have number of libraries in market which are widely used in the area of machine learning and data science, like NumPy for handling multidimensional data, means matrices data. And to analyze the data, we have matplotlib, and we are having some specific libraries to implement machine learning and data science algorithm like scipy or TensorFlow or Keras. We will try to get some hands-on experience on these libraries in Python. In next couple of videos, we will try to calculate all of these statistics fundamental like mean and median and mean deviation in Python using NumPy. And after that, because we must have something to analyze the data, to scatter this data, to create some graphs for us, so we will use matplotlib for this. So in next couple of minutes, we will use NumPy to play with the multidimensional data. We will try to get hands-on experience of NumPy, and then after that we will try to create some graphs of data sets in matplotlib. But prior to just jumping into the implementing of this NumPy and matplot thing, we must have some IDE installed in our desktop. So there are a number of IDE in the market where you can start implementing this logic in Python, but my favorite is Spider over Anaconda. I have made a different video to install Anaconda for Windows, so visit this video if you wanted to know the steps. And after that, we can just start with Spider. So after downloading and installing Anaconda in your machine, the next step what we have to do is to go to Windows button, and we have to search for Spider, and we will get number of different IDE after installing this Anaconda. So Spider is one of them. So once this Spider is started and ready, we will have this type of UI in front of it. We will have three different pane to work in this. So the first pane which we are seeing right now is coding pane, where we will write some line of codes to implement a specific functionality in our program. And we have second pane which is console pane, and this pane will show us the real-time values and status of the codes, means line of codes which we are trying to run or execute. So we have third pane which is object pane, where we will have the real-time values of the objects or the variables which we have defined in our machine. And in this pane we have second option which is help pane. In this section of this pane, we will have a functionality, means flexibility to get help of any line of code which we are writing by just pressing only Ctrl+I, and it will show us some help and tips. And the next section inside this pane, plots section, where we will have real-time plotting of the data by using matplotlib or any other plotting library in Python. And the last section inside this pane is we having files. So here we will find out the files related to our project which we are working on. All right, so this was all about panes. And here we have a standard menu. We can create new file if you wanted to create. So just go to file and create new file. All right, so because Python is also a object oriented programming, means we have some system libraries which are coming with the installation of the compiler. And in our case, compiler is Anaconda, which we already installed. We are getting a number of system files with it, as we are getting in the case of Java or C++ or C sharp. When we are installing compiler for Windows, we are getting a number of system files for it. So in the same way, we are getting a number of system files with Anaconda. In this video, we will try to get to know different fundamental of matplotlib and numpy. So we have to install these two libraries explicitly. We are not getting this as a system library, even though when we are installing this anaconda we are getting these two libraries with it, but I am just explaining the way how to install some external library. So to install any external library over anaconda, what we have to do is that go to Windows button once again and anaconda prompt, start it, and after starting we will get this type of black screen. Inside this black screen, because we want to download two explicit libraries, which is numpy and matplotlib, so we need to first install these libraries for anaconda. Just write conda install, and because we wanted to download numpy, so it is done. So numpy is installed and ready to work. In the same way we have to install matplotlib. Again write conda install matplotlib. Now we are ready with the install and downloading of these numpy and matplotlib. So as most of the object oriented programming, we have to import, or we have to use external libraries. So to work with these two libraries, first thing we need to do is to import these into our current program, means the current project which we are using, which we are working. So syntax for the Python is import. First we need to work with numpy, so numpy as np. So we have imported this numpy which we already installed. If you wanted to print what version of numpy which we are working on, so just go to print. Print is a function in Python which will print us the value of the variable which we are holding. Okay, so what we are currently trying to print, the version of the numpy which we have in our project. Just write np dot version dot again version, try to click, and to run a program click F5 or run. So this way it is printing 1.18.1. So to run a program, what we have to do is that go to run and click on run, or alternatively we can directly press F5 in our keyboard. So just go to run and click F5. So this is the version of the numpy which we are having installed in our machine. Deactivate this line of code, go to the next line. We already have numpy is a external library in Python which actually deals with the multidimensional and matrices data. Numpy is having a number of standard methods which we can use in our program or our project to implement a specific functionality to deal with the multidimensional data. So now what we will try to understand is that how to define a single dimensional, two dimensional and three dimensional matrices and data using numpy. And at the same time, once we have this hands-on experience of defining objects and defining arrays of single dimensional or multidimensional, we will be ready to take further steps, plotting these data sets onto a matplotlib on a graph. Okay, so let's start. What we have to do to define array, for example, we are defining a test array. So test array, we have already imported numpy as np. So just go to np, just write down np dot, we have a function inside np which is array, to define a numpy type of array, and inside this array we have to define some object. And what will be the object means the list or some Python array which we are having. So how to define list? Just go to this one, define first value, second, 3, 4, 5th, 7th, and like that. So here we already defined a variable which is test array, and inside this variable we set a np type of array, and we define the number of the elements inside the array. Okay, and this way we are ready to execute this line of code. So just write down 5, and what we will get, all the line has been executed successfully. If there is some type of array, we will get it here. And as we explain, this variable explorer of this pane will tell us about the variables which we have defined in our line of code. We have defined test array, and the same we are getting here. Name of the variable is test array. The type of the variable is array of int32, means integer 32 type of elements this array is holding, and the size is 6 comma nothing, means the size is actually saying us that this array is a single dimensional array. I mean the array which we are having is a single dimensional array, and this array is holding 6 element, 1 2 3 4 5 6. So the first element is 2 1, second is 2, and 3 is 5 7 and 8. So this is the array we are having, and because size of this array is single dimensional and the number of elements we are having is 6, so we are getting size as 6 and comma, so which we can see here 6 and comma. So we can see here 6 and comma is the size, and value this array is holding is 1 2 3 5 7 8, which we have defined. So this way we are able to define a numpy type of array holding int32 type of values, and size is 6, and we have values. Next, let's try to define a matrix data. This matrix will have, for example, 3 column and 2 rows. how to define a matrix. So test matrix np dot array, and here we will define, means the first row element inside the first row and the second row. So inside this we will have, first row, and we will have second row. Okay, and first row is having, for example, 1 2 and 3, means 3 columns, and the second row is having, for example, 5 and 6 and 7, means there are 2 rows, means there are, this matrix will have 2 rows and 3 elements, 3 columns, and the first row is having 1 2 and 3, and the second row is having 5 6 7. This is how we are defining. Try to run this line of code, click F5. We have a variable named test matrix, and we have array of int32, and size is changed. The first value inside the size object is saying that 2 are the rows and the 3 are the columns. If we double click on this, object, what we will find out that the first value, means this first row, is holding 1 2 and 3, same as we have defined here, and the second row is holding 5 6 and 7 as we have defined here. Okay, so this is how we can define two-dimensional data in an NumPy, and this is how we can see it. Okay, now close, try to define. Okay, this time let's try to define three-dimensional data, means we will have 3 layers of, matrix. Same, we have in each matrix we have 2 rows and 3 columns, and this will be having, 1 2 3 5 6 7. We will have in the same, object, we will have second layer of the matrix, again 2 rows 3 column, and we will have some another different values, and then after that we will have 3 layer of matrix, same we will have 2 rows and 3 columns. So let's try to define this type of array. Let's try to define three-dimensional array. So go test matrix 3 layer. Okay, this is the name of the object for our understanding. Go to np dot array. Now we have to, define a object, and this object will have 3 layers. So this is the object. Now we have to define, because we have to define 3 layers, layer 1, layer 2 and layer 3. Okay, this is the way, means we have defined 3 layers. In layer 1 we have to define now matrix. The matrix value is holding, because we have to define, means as earlier we have defined a object which are having, 2 rows and 3 columns. So in the same way we have to define 2 rows. This is how we can define 2 rows, and inside one row, first row, let's insert some number. So this is first row of first layer, and this is second row of second layer. So first row, first layer is ready. Now we have to, in the same way, we have to insert some number into the second layer. So in second layer, first we have to insert first row. We have inserted first row. Now second row, we have inserted second row. Now let's try to insert some number in first row, and the same way in second row. In the same way, we have to define first row in third layer and the second row of third layer. Let's insert some number in third layer. Let it is 45 67 89, and second row of third layer 56, for example. I'm just inserting some random numbers. This object will hold 3-dimensional values. Let's run it. Just click on F5. We have third variable, which is test matrix 3 layer. The type is again array of 32, and the size is changed now. So 3 2 and 3. We have 3 layer. The first value inside the 3-dimensional object is saying that we have 3 layer, and we have in each layer we have 2 rows and 3 columns. 2 rows and 3 columns. If we click on it, we will get this. So here we are having 2 rows and 3 column, and the first row. Now double click on it and try to understand what values it is holding. So as we can see, the first value we are having 1 2 and 3, means first column. the same which we have defined here, and the second is having 567 which is defined here. So this whole object was the first layer of this object. Now if we go to second object, second layer, how to get to know the second layer, which is index, we are getting second layer. Just try to understand. So we have 8 9 10 12 23 45, 8 9 10 in first row and 12 23 and 45 in second row. The third layer of this object is having 45 67 78. Just increase it and we will have 45 67 78, and in second row we are having 56 87 and 9. So this is how we can define three-dimensional array in NumPy. We understood how to define single dimensional, two-dimensional or multi-dimensional array in NumPy, as we have already calculated mean and median in Excel in our last video on two fake data, which was means runs created by two different batsmen in 10 different matches. So we will try to find out the mean and the median of those data by using this NumPy. Define an object runs by batsman 1 np dot array, and here we have to insert runs by batsman 1. In the same way we have to define runs by batsman 2. We have to calculate mean and median of these two objects. So let us write mean of batsman 1. How to calculate mean in NumPy? So just go to np, the thing which we have defined, means the namespace np dot, we have a method called mean, and inside mean we have to pass the object of which we wanted to find out mean. So just pass this object inside it and run it. Click F5. We are having mean of b1, so value is 53.0. So by this function we can directly calculate mean of the data which we have. In the same way, if you wanted to calculate mean of batsman 2, what we have to do is np dot mean and just pass this runs by batsman 2 inside it, and this way we will calculate mean. Click F5 and mean of batsman 2, and this is how we can calculate mean. So as we already explained, means these two data set having same values of mean. If you wanted to calculate median of batsman 1, what we have to do is that np dot median runs by batsman b1, and in the same way if we wanted to calculate median of batsman 2, this is how we can calculate median. Run this code. So we will have mean b1 and b2. We have mean of b1 means batsman 1, mean of b2 batsman 2, median of b1 and median of b2. So this is how we are getting means 53 of all of these parameters, means mean and median of these two data sets, means runs created by batsman 1 and batsman 2. Mean and median is having 53 value. By now we are able to understand how to define single dimensional, two dimensional and multi-dimensional data in NumPy, and we have understood how to calculate mean and median of a data.